So in the small Kinnos on page 60, Kinna speaks about Korbanos insofar that it speaks about the Churban of Mishkan Shiloh. The Gemara says that Shiloh was Nechra because Bizui of Kodshim, Mevaza the Korbanos. Speak a little bit about the Kedushah of Korbanos and the Mela also the Kedushah of Tefilah. The Rambam in Morah Nevuchim says that the inyan of Korbanos is to negate Avodah Zarah. People were accustomed in those times to bring sacrifices to their idolatrous gods, and it was impossible for the Ribbono Shel Olam to wean them away from that means of service. Like coming today and telling people you can't pray to God. People know that's how you serve the Ribbono Shel Olam. So they were so used to serving their gods in that way, the Ribbono Shel Olam said, fine, you can continue serving with Korbanos, just make them miyucha to the Ribbono Shel Olam, not to Avodah Zarah. So it was to wean them away from Avodah Zarah. There's a medrash, the Taka says that. But all of the Rishonim have tainas on the Rambam. How could that be the reason for Korbanos? Adam Arisha brought Korbanos. There was no Avodah Zarah in the world. Noach brought Korbanos after the Churban of the Mabul. There was no Avodah Zarah in the world. How could that Korbanos only be something to wean people away from Avodah Zarah? That shot in the Rambam would be the Rambam didn't mean to say that it was to wean them away from Avodah Zarah, but to prevent Avodah Zarah. When you'll take Korbanos and you'll be miyachad them to the Ribbono Shel Olam, it'll prevent you from being over Avodah Zarah. Not that it takes you away from the Avodah Zarah. Therefore, by Noach and Adam, it's also an inyan to bring Korbanos even for that same idea. However, the same Rambam, in the end of Hilchos Me'ilah, says that Korbanos are a chok beyond our comprehension. Shomayim va'aretz are tluyim b'Korbanos. Same Rambam. In Morah Nevuchim, where he's speaking Nevuchim, he said a rational reason that they could understand. In Morah Nevuchim, he said the full emes. The Korbanos are beyond our understanding, and the whole world is dependent on Korbanos. The Ramban says the idea of Korbanos is to miyached every koach in the world, mineral, vegetable, animal, and the person who's oved. All the different components of the world are united in service of the Ribbono Shel Olam, and all the kochos of a person similarly. Others say that the Ribbono Shel Olam created a system of hashpah, how he brings his influence into the world. And we are the ones who create the energy source to make that system work. Mitzvahs, Torah, but mainly Korbanos, take everything in the Bria and influence it in order to be able to bring the hashpah of the Ribbono Shel Olam back to the world in all those areas. In addition, Korbanos have an idea that we can identify with the animal. We are like animals, except we have a neshama, which makes us completely different. And therefore, when you look and see what can happen to an animal, it doesn't have any das. If we act like an animal, that's what we deserve. The only thing that makes us deserve more is the fact that we have a das, we have a neshama, makes us different than the animal. But if we act like animals, and that's why you bring the chatos. The chatos represents, this is what you acted like, and this is what happens to animals. And aside, those people who say that Korbanos are primitive, we're not looking forward to reinstating sacrifices. We're beyond that. That was for primitive people. Now we are much more refined, progressive. afro lepumayu. Anyone who says that is kofar in the Torah, all the Nevi'im, and all the davening. Impossible that there should be an idea that when Mashiach will come, will be beyond sacrifices. If that's the case, the whole Sefer Yechezkel is sheker. We daven, Shom Nasa lefonechas Korbanos Chovoseinu is sheker. Impossible that anyone should hold that. And therefore, what they attribute to Rav Kook Zatzal, that he said such a thing. In the future, there will only be Korbanos Minochos, but no Korbanos of animals, is Sheker B'Chazit. If you look where supposedly he said that, he doesn't say that at all. It's wishful thinking of the people who wanted him to say. He doesn't say that for sure, because he knew that if he said that, he'd be Kofar in Sefer Yechezkel, in all of the Siddur, and most of the Nevi'im. What does he say? It says, "V'orval Hashem minchas Yehuda v'Yerushalayim kimei olam u'cheshonim kadmonios." And when Mashiach comes, "V'orval Hashem minchas Yehuda v'Yerushalayim kimei olam." What Rav Kook says is the following. He says that originally Korbanos came from animals, came from menachos, and the reason was that these things don't have their own ability. They have no das. They have no ability to serve the Ribono Shel Olam directly. So they need to be elevated and used as tools to serve the Ribono Shel Olam. That's the whole animal world and vegetable world. Human beings are the ones that use these things in service of the Ribono Shel Olam. Echoes the following idea. This is not what the Kook says over there. Just to make it more understandable what he's saying. On the one hand, it says that everything that was created l'kvod Hashem. Kol ma shebarasi lo barasi ole l'kvodi. Yet the Mishnah says in Kedushah that animals were created to serve man, and man was created to serve Hashem. So if everything was created l'kvod Hashem, how come the animals were created to serve man? So Rashi says on the Gemara that says that on Yom Chamishi we say Harninu Lalukim Uzeinu Hariel Lalukei Yaakov, because on Thursday fish and birds were created l'shabeach l'shmo, to praise Hashem. Rashi says it doesn't mean that the fish and birds praise Hashem, because nothing serves Hashem directly except for human beings. What it means is that when human beings see different kinds of fish and birds, they praise Hashem. The birds and the fish evoke praise from human beings. They're a means for people to use to serve Hashem. And then it's as if they're fulfilling that purpose. They're serving Hashem through human beings. I always like to explain the Medrash Pliya that brings out this idea. The Medrash says that when Eliyahu was at Har HaKarmel, he wanted to prove that Hashem hu Elokim and not the Baal. So he said, we'll make a controlled experiment. We'll bring two animals, you, the Bnei Baal, and me. And whichever carbon brings Eish Min HaShamayim, that's the one that's true. So in order that the Nevi'ah Baal shouldn't say that the carbon, the animal that Eliyahu brought was more conducive to bringing fire from the heavens, they took two identical twin parim. Two bulls that were twins, identical twins. And he told the Nevi'ah Baal, you take the first one. You take the one you think is more conducive to bringing fire min hashamayim. So Eliyahu took the other one, went to his Mizbeach. He looks back and he sees that the Nevi'ah Baal is schlepping this animal, won't move. Calls over a few of his friends, they're pushing, schlepping, kicking, the animal won't move. Finally the animal sits down and all 450 Nevi'ah Baal are trying to move it won't move. So Eliyahu goes over to the par and he says, you're holding up the whole ceremony over here. Could you please get to where you're supposed to go? The Medrash says the par tells Eliyahu nothing doing. Everybody here got a good part. You're Eliyahu Novi. My twin brother's going to go on the Mizbeach Hashem and Mekadesh Shem Shamayim. And I got the rotten part here and going on the Mizbeach Habal and Michal Shem Shamayim. Nobody asked me. I'm not interested. I'm not going. So Eliyahu says, I hear your taina, but you're making a big mistake. The same way that there'll be a Kiddush Hashem when your brother is brought on the Mizbeach Hashem and the fire comes min Hashamayim and consumes him, is the same exact way that there'll be a Kiddush Hashem when no fire comes min Hashamayim and doesn't consume you on the Mizbeach Habal. The parish says, I hear what you're saying, I accept it with one condition. You hand me over to them. What's the meaning of the medrash? The par originally represented the hashkafa that everything serves Hashem directly. And he's right. If he's going on the Mizbeach Habal, it's V'chal Shem Shamayim. But Eliyahu told him that's not true. Nothing serves Hashem directly except for human beings. Animals were created that human beings should use them in their service of Hashem. And therefore, how you affect the human being is your Kiddush Hashem. And if you'll be on the Mizbeach Habal, but people will be favorably influenced because no fire will come down and consume you, you're Mekadosh Shem Shamayim, even though you're on the Mizbeach Habal. It doesn't go on what you're doing. It goes how it affects human beings. Therefore, the part that I accept that, then I'm not a free agent. I'm a tool in your hands. Use me to Mekadosh Shem Shamayim. You give me over to them. So, originally, says Rav Kook, an animal sacrifice was to elevate the animal. It doesn't have das of its own. And therefore, the purpose of the sacrifice was to elevate the animal. A pure person should use it and elevate it in Avodas Hashem. Same thing as by Menachos, to take the vegetable world and elevate it in service Hashem. But even the animals will have das. So that purpose of a certain percentage of horses are homosexual. Therefore, in nature you see that there is a certain percentage of horses that are homosexual. Therefore, by human beings, same thing. Certain percentage of people who have that inclination, just like horses. And therefore, it's just an alternate lifestyle because that's part of nature. I had to stop my car. It was the most absurd thing I've heard in my life. I'll tell you a secret. You know, a certain percentage of animals eat other animals. They're cannibals. Therefore, since there's a certain percentage of animals that eat other animals, so a certain percentage of people are cannibals. Some people eat meat, some people eat other people. It's just another alternate lifestyle. You know, certain animals steal from each other. So there's some people who don't steal. Some people are born to steal. So it's an accepted alternative lifestyle. It's like people got nothing. That's an alternative lifestyle. You can do this thing absurd. What's the answer? Yeah. Could be there a certain percent. I'll say even more than that. There's a good percentage of people who have a Yetzer Hara, who have taivas for things that are normal. They're supposed to control them. Animals also have taivas. They don't have to control them. They do what comes naturally. They're animals. What difference does it make if it's a taiva for something normal or something abnormal? A person's supposed to control it, whether he has that taiva or not. Maybe it is. Maybe there are people who are born with that nature, with that taiva, just like other people are born with taivas, normal taivas. Except human beings are supposed to control their taivas. They're not animals. But when you equate animals with human beings, and whatever's good for the animal is good for the person, you don't elevate the animal, you decrease the people. And that's why people act like they're animals by the Mabul, and that's why the Mabul came, says the Sefer Yikar. Therefore, after the Mabul, the Rabbanim Shalom made it a point to tell people to eat meat. They're not your peers, eat them. You're not accountable if you eat meat. Because they're animals and you're a human being, and you're supposed to act differently. That's the Sefer Yikar. That's Korbanos. Tefilah is what we have, the Mokum Korbanos left. Chazal say there are two kinds of Tefilah. For all practical purposes, the koach of Tefilah has been diminished because the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed. But Sharei Dim Alom Ninolu. The way I understand that is there are two kinds of Tefilah. There's a Tefilah that's active, Tefilah, like we said, by Korbanos, that manipulate all the kochos in the world and bring God's influence into the world. That kind of Tefilah was diminished when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. The Beis HaMikdash was the energy source of the whole world. Tefilah went through that. Mikdash doesn't exist anymore. They're closed. They're not destroyed. You can still daven like that. Right? Every yeshiva bacher knows that if the gates are closed, you can still get in. There's plenty of ways of doing it. But it's not as easy. But Sharidima is another kind of Tefilah. A Tefilah of demos. A Tefilah that's represented by tears. Not a Tefilah that's active. I want to create kochos in the world. But a Tefilah that says, Ribono shel olam, I need you. I can't do it on my own. Only if you heal me will I be healed. I can't do it on my own. That kind of Tefilah is passive. I put myself in the hands of the Ribono shel olam. That wasn't affected by the Churban Habayis. And that's why there's two kinds of Tefilah, both the Or Sameach, Moshe Chochmah, and the Briskerov. There's Tefilah is Kecherev, the Char B'du Vakashti, it's Lucy Uvausi. There's Tefilah like a Cherev, where the Cherev itself is sharp, is powerful. There's the words of the Tefilah themselves manipulate all the kochos in the Bria. It's like a lock that's computerized, programmed to open when a certain person says a certain word, a certain way. It opens the lock. If you don't say it at the right time, it's not the right person, and it's not the right word, you don't say it properly, it doesn't open the lock. That kind of Tefilah is like a cherev, and that's why it's important. That Tefilah is the Tefilah that the Anshe Knesset Agdola were misak in every word, honed to have its koach. But then there's Ba'usi. There's the Tefilah that a person can make up his own words and add to the regular institutionalized Tefilah. That's like a bow and arrow. The arrow has no koach in its own. It's only how far you pull it back and give it power, then it's effective. And the Kedushah Arim says it depends how close you pull it to your heart. The farther you pull the arrow back closer to your heart, the farther it's going to go. That kind of Tefilah, the words aren't significant. It's the heart. It's the kavanah. Those Tefillahs, you can make up your own words and add them to Shemona Esrei. That's called Ba'usi. Kash. And even Tefilah has been diminished completely. Used to be, the halacha was in the time of the Mishnah, that a chosim didn't read Kriya Shema. And if he did, he was mechzik Yehura, as if he could be mechaber. That means that at least when he wasn't a chosim, he was mechaber. Bisman Hazeh, the Nosei Keil, the Shulchan Aruch says that halacha doesn't apply. Because nobody's mechaber anyway. It doesn't make him a chosim, not a chosim. Used to be if a person returned from a trip, he didn't daven that day. If he got angry that day, he didn't daven. You need Yishuv Adas to daven. That's when you have some Yishuv Adas altogether. That's when you have some Das. You can have Yishuv Adas. Since the Churban, we're on a Madrega where there's no Das and there's no Yishuv Adas. If we don't daven, unless we have Yishuv Adas, we'll never daven. That's why if you don't have Kavanah when you daven, really you shouldn't go back and daven again, because you probably daven the second time without Kavanah too. Why do you think so? The Mishnah says, "Hamechal hakadoshim, mevazeh hamoadim," which is called a moed, umal b'pnei chaveiro berabim, mefer briso shel Avromi Avinu, afal pi sheyesh lo toru ma'asim tovim ein lo chelik lo mabah. All these things are a bizui of kodshim. Kedushas chol hamoed yantiv is that which connects us to the Ribono shel olam. Yom Tovim, like we explained, Chol HaMoed especially, is mechaber the Chol and the Moed together. Mal b'nei Chaveiro, Selim Elokim, Kesher to the Ribono shel olam, Mavaza that. Mefer Bris Kodesh, the Bris is that Kesher which connects us to Kedushah. All of these things represent our connection to Kedushah through the Zman, through our kinyonim, through our body. And a person who's mevazah and mezalzel, all these inyonei Kedushah, There's no chelik in Olam Haba, because Olam Haba is a chibur to Kedusha. And if you mavaza these things, what kind of chibur to Kedusha could you have? Therefore, Shulchan Aruch writes, Lo yasiya sichas chulin b'shas sheshliach tzibur chozer atfilah v'imsoch u'chotei v'godol avonam nimsoch. Person not allowed to talk during davening, not from Baruch Sha'amar through to the end of Shemona Esrei, even through Tachanun. Not allowed to talk b'chlal, dvarim b'teilim in the shul, even when there's no davening. But during Shemona Esrei, during Chazor Sashas, is even extra special. So he asks like this, the powerful expression, Godel Avoni Minso, this transgression is too great to bear, is not found anywhere else in the entire Shulchan Aruch. Not by the laws of Kashrus, not by the laws of Chilul Shabbos. We find the expression only once in the entire Torah, and that's when Cain, after committing the first murder in history, tells Hashem, God lavoni minso. How can the Shulchan Aruch proclaim that talking during the recitation of the Shemona Esrei is such an enormous transgression? Doesn't this seem to be an exaggeration? He gives a moshav. Imagine a solemn courtroom where a man is on trial. As the lawyer pleads his client's case, the client begins chatting and joking with a friend. Noticing the client's lack of attention and interest, the judge becomes furious, thinking, he doesn't care what the lawyer says on his behalf, why should I care? The judge is patient and waits for the defendant to be quiet. However, another few minutes go by and the client waves to a passerby, then answers a call on his cell phone, all while his lawyer is trying to defend him. The judge becomes even more irritated and roars to the client, get out of my courtroom. I'll have nothing to do with you. If you don't care about your case, I certainly don't care. The Shemona Esrei the Shliach Tzibur is in a sense our lawyer as he pleads to the supreme judge on our behalf. If we make idle conversation and show a lack of interest in our lawyer's words, it's understandable that the judge will separate himself from the case and therefore break his connection with us. If that happens and our connection to Hashem is severed, then that is indeed a godel avono minso, a transgression too great to bear. And the same applies to all of the diburim in a place where you're supposed to create that connection to the Rabbanu Shalom and to show that it doesn't mean anything to you. Joking around, fooling around, or whatever is a very serious thing. And people have to be reminded that it's serious. And if they're not reminded, then it becomes hefker. In places where nobody is interested in being ma'orer people when they're talking, at the time that they're talking. Because if we wait till afterwards, they forget about it until the next time they come to shul. People know that there is decorum, and they know that if they talk, it's going to be, they're going to be goarim bohem, as the Shulchan Aruch says. So then you can keep some with decorum in a Beis HaKnesses. In the places where nobody is ma'orer and it becomes hefker, then it's never possible to correct something that's already a minig amokum already. That's talking during davening. How about another thing? People come late. In Milwaukee, there was a young man who owned a furniture store. One morning in the store, he noticed that smoke was coming between the wood slats of his parquet floor. He ran to the basement to see if there was a problem. When he opened the door, his worst fears were confirmed. A fire was raging and smoke was filling most of the basement. He tried desperately to put out the fire with a fire extinguisher, but it was to no avail. By the time he ran back upstairs, the fire is nice to hear. So the difference between when a person davens, brings a korban with kavana, and when it's done without kavana. Every Friday, without fail, Rav Zev Leff would bring home an exquisite bouquet of fresh flowers for his wife. She had a penchant for flowers, and each week she eagerly anticipated the lovely addition to her Shabbos table. Their young son Shlomi watched with delight each time his father presented his mother with a beautiful bouquet. Realizing how much pleasure the flowers gave his mother, Shlomi decided that he too would present his mother with flowers each week. The following Friday afternoon, Shlomi left the park early on his way home. He stopped at an empty lot to carefully select some wildflowers that were growing there. He gathered a few tall blades of grass to round off the bouquet, and with a huge smile on his face, he rushed home to present his gift to his mother. When Mrs. Dickstein saw the little cluster of flowers that her son had lovingly picked, she knew they would not enhance her table, but she truly appreciated the kind gesture. Thanking her child profusely, she placed her son's flowers in a small vase, which she promptly put on the table beside the larger, more elegant bouquet that she had received from her husband. The next Friday, Shlomi once again stopped playing a little early and spent the extra time choosing flowers for his mother. Upon receiving the flowers, his mother thanked him profusely, set them in a prominent place on the table. This continued week after week. After a couple of months had passed, Shlomi grew tired of his new practice, but he felt obliged to continue since his mother had come to expect his gift. That Friday, Shlomi did not leave his game early to gather flowers, but as he passed through the empty lot on his way home from the park, he ripped out the first few flowers that he saw, brought them home to his mother. His mother took the flowers and placed them on the table in their usual place. The following week, Shlomi again opted not to leave his game early. On his way home, he bent down and grabbed a few clumps of weeds with a few flowers sprinkled in, then headed home. Not finding his mother in the kitchen, he dumped the mess on the table and called out unfeelingly, "Ma, here are your flowers." Then he ran upstairs to begin his preparations for Shabbos. When Mrs. Dickstein came down a few minutes later, she noticed the messy pile that her son had thrown on the table. She scooped it up and dropped it into the trash can. The flowers that Shlomi provided for his mother each week were superfluous because she had another bouquet that overshadowed them in beauty and in size. But as long as they were an expression of his love for her, she treasured them dearly. Once her son stopped investing his heart into his gift, the wildflowers and weeds served no purpose at all, so she disposed of them. Rabbi David Orlovsky uses this true story to illustrate Hashem's attitude towards Korbanos and davening and the performance of mitzvahs in general. During the time that Beis Hamikdash stood in Yerushalayim, we brought Korbanos to Hashem. Although he had no intrinsic need for our sacrifices, since the entire world belongs to him, he cherished them nonetheless because they were an expression of our love for him. Shortly before the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, Yeshayahu chastised Jewish people by informing them that Hashem said, "Loma li rov zivchechem." Why do I need your abundant offerings? Those words are shocking. Isn't the reason we bring korbanos because Hashem desires them? The answer is that Hashem desires our korbanos in so much as they're an expression of our love for him. When we began to bring them merely from a sense of obligation, Hashem is no longer interested in them and said, "When you come to my Beis Hamikdash, you're trampling in my courtyard. You're dirtying my place." Similarly, when we daven or perform other mitzvahs, we must understand that Hashem does not benefit in any way from our deeds. He gave us the mitzvahs in order to afford us the opportunity to gain a relationship with him. It is only when we perform mitzvahs with feeling that Hashem lovingly accepts them. Yitzy Hashem, if we understand the significance of Korbanos, the significance of Tefilah, which somewhat takes the place of Korbanos, we'll be able to yearn for the day that we'll be able to bring Korbanos again. The Shalom Aparim Svaseinu will be that the culmination of the Korban will be the Tefillahs that will say,